Hey everyone, Will Brink here, BrinkZone.com. For those subscribers to this channel, this video may be a little confusing, but let me explain. So I actually did a mail out to those on my lists, on the BrinkZone lists, on the AlphaJoe lists and such, asking people if they had any questions they wanted to answer, just any questions that I could answer, of course. And so for those that are subscribing just to the YouTube channel, it may be a little confusing at first. But anyway, I basically took a collection of questions that I got. Again, they're sort of all over the place to answer for people. But, I like to answer questions. Q&A is something I enjoy. So what I will try to do is also put timestamps under this vid at some point, breaking down the different questions so that those that want to just jump to certain questions answered or are interested in the answer to certain questions can find them. Two, I can't really stop too long on each question and really get into depth, so there may be some missing information in some of them, or there may be just people might want a little more depth. And if you watch the video, one of those questions you would like to see a dedicated video to it, let me know. But I'm going to try to keep this video under too long, so I'm going to have to somewhat rush through some of these questions. But there's some interesting stuff. We cover a whole bunch of, well, I'll say but people sent in a lot of different topics, which was great. And hopefully I have some answers that are as good as the questions. I took, I grabbed a handful of a range of topics and put it into a Word doc for myself so I could get through it. So without further ado, let's just jump in. And like I say, if you're not on my list and you have questions, you can leave it below this video. And of course, you can get on the lists and see the answers or additional questions and so forth. So here's one that I got from David. Hey, thanks for asking, Will, i.e. the question we sent out. Despite everyone saying age is just a number, I personally have found it just isn't true when it comes to health, working out, and many of the topics you cover. An example, as I have aged, I have found escalating density training to be much more agreeable with me than traditional strength training approaches, as it reduces the stress I feel both physically and mentally. So escalating density training is a Charles Staley program. I have not personally used it, but by all accounts, everybody that always has nothing but good things to say about it. Charles has written some articles on my site. It's been a while since he has, but there's actually some good Charles Staley articles on BrinkZone. And like I say, I've never heard anything but great feedback about Charles Staley, his program. And just in general, Charles is one of the better strength coaches or just general performance coaches out there. I've always liked Charles's approach to stuff. Anyway, so back to David's question. So clearly as I age, and I mean 50 or 55 plus, I have more health issues, consume more medications, although I'm lucky. This is not a lot in my case. I also focus much more now on rest and stress management. That's good. There are also clearly hormonal changes for men and women, and some who pursue HRT. How might that affect results? If you are 55 plus with testosterone of a 21-year-old, should you expect the results of a 21-year-old? Perhaps you could talk about these topics from the perspective of the aging body, whether how things differ from age groups, or what I care about at 55 plus. Thanks, David. So that's a great email. Important topic, David. I, as someone who is pushing 60, I completely agree with your email for one thing. Anyone that says, age is just a number is full of it, frankly, and is probably not that old. Now, I'm somewhere, I guess, in the middle. I'm not that old. I'm not that young, and so on and so forth. But look, age is not just a number. Maybe psychologically, I don't know, but I agree with you. I too, I've got some injuries. I've got a torn rotator cuff. I've got some disc issues. Tore my bicep not that long ago. Not doing anything crazy. Again, probably decades of repetition and who knows what. So I agree with you. As we get older, our training definitely needs to be modified. Our approach to health and wellness needs to be modified. Again, if you search BrinkZone, I mean, my own personal interest as far as articles and training and that type of thing have shifted towards, people that are not kids anymore, that are at least, I'd say, over 40. 40 is kind of the dividing line biologically, physiologically, for the vast majority of humans, give or take a few years, where we definitely start to notice, let's say, more aches and pains, not recuperating as well as we used to. And a lot of that is hormonal. We will definitely come back. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So I agree with the premise. I will say that, there is even some workout plans. There's even an article on the BrinkZone called, I think it's called the old guy workout. It's a joke, but anyway, it's stressing more a well-rounded type approach. But if escalating density is training working for you, stick with that. Let's get to the hormones. And the hormones discussion is going to be a reoccurring theme in this video on other people's questions. So I absolutely recommend anybody over 40, that's the dividing line, should get a full hormone panel done yearly. That is generally, again, give or take, genetics, people's health, and so forth, kind of the cliff where our hormones tend to drop off. And if your hormones are not optimized, yes, you will definitely be making your life hard. You will not be recuperating as well. Your strength will go down, and so forth. And so, and again, I do have videos on BrinkZone discussing this and sort of reiterating what I'm saying here. But will you get expect the results of a 21-year-old? No, because of course your issues in the gym and so forth are not just hormones. Now hormones, obviously testosterone is the big one, but other ones, thyroid, even estradiol. Lots of people are still in the impression that estradiol, i.e. estrogen, is strictly a female hormone. That's not true. Men produce it. We need it. We just don't need it in the same amounts and ratios that women do, but we need it. So I would recommend and stress strongly to anybody, man or women, over 40, should get a full hormone panel done yearly. And what does that look like? Life Extension, for example, Life Extension Foundation has a great hormone panel. You can, and there's other companies too, but I do consulting work for them, and I know them. I use them, myself. They have a lab. You can go to them. I'll try to link that under this video too. But yes, for sure, if you find that you are not recuperating as well, and more aches and pains and so forth, yes, I would highly recommend getting your hormones checked and having your hormones optimized to that of a healthy young man, that of a healthy 21-year-old or 30-year-old, what have you. So David, I agree with you. I agree when people. I roll my eyes when people say age is just a number. And hey, man, if you're 75 and you're moving the same weights, when you were 25 and jumping out of bed and don't have any aches and pains, man, more power to you. But I don't know anybody like that personally. Okay, so let's go to the next question. I better not stay here too long. From Peter, here's a strange request, but it may apply to more people than you realize. Can you cover the topic of Nocturia? Nocturia basically just is a fancy term for just getting up at night and having to go pee like a bunch of times. And that is not usually related to a medical condition, such as like prostate enlargement in men or diabetes or that kind of thing. So back to Peter's question. It's waking up 2 or more times to urinate. That, I guess I just said that. It doesn't mean that the person has an enlarged prostate, even though I do, and my urologist told me it's not a problem at this time. I'm 57. My entire adult life has been waking me up to urinate from 2 to 5 times a night. I'm always able to go right back to sleep, but I feel it affects my quality of sleep, which in turn affects my testosterone production and or HGH levels. I appreciate the great work you've done over the years. Thanks, Peter. Good question. Important question. I have the same deal myself, actually, Peter. I mean, I don't have it all the time, but I definitely have found that there are nights that sometimes, for whatever reason, I get up like 3, 4, 5 times to take a pee, and it's annoying, and it does disrupt your sleep. You're absolutely right. And yes, the more data that comes out over the last 5, 10 years, the more we realize how absolutely essential sleep is for everything, as you said, testosterone levels, HGH levels, mental well-being, immune system, you name it. We need our sleep. What I'm going to say, though, is that Dr. Attia just did a video on this topic and covers strategies, even covers some drugs and hormones such as melatonin and so forth. So what I'm going to do is just refer to him, and I'll try to link that again below the video. Dr. Attia is one of the websites, YouTube channels I recommend. Sharp guy. He's one of my handful of doctors that I think is really sharp. Has great guests, knows what he's doing. Not scamming and saying goofy things that are not well supported to get clicks and likes and sell stuff. So I'm going to put that under there and just kind of jump past this one. But I am paying attention. Obviously, I got your question. Next one comes from Dan H. Very short one. It says, Will, appreciate your work. I don't drink coffee. Can I still use AlphaJoe? So Dan, here's for those who don't know. Let me put this down here. Hold on a second. So let me cover this. So for those that don't know, AlphaJoe is my formula. So blatant product plug. We're going to discuss this briefly. So this is my AlphaJoe. It's called a coffee booster, as you can see on the label. So AlphaJoe is 3 key ingredients. Very simple product. Creatine monohydrate is CreaPure. Organic, unprocessed or non-alkalized cocoa, and L-tyrosine. Very simple, great product. People love it. Recipe I gave away for years. If you're interested, I will link that below. Back to Dan's question so you know what we're talking about. So Dan, one, I don't always trust people that don't drink coffee. I got to be honest, but that's here nor there. But sure, obviously you can use AlphaJoe in whatever you want. AlphaJoe is designed, hence the term coffee booster, to amplify and boost and improve the effects of coffee, both the nootropic benefits, the health benefits, because coffee is good for you, and even taste. It makes coffee taste better. The cocoa really tastes good. So it's the premise of it is to take coffee as the joke or our logo is to take your coffee to an 11. I'm sure those of you who recall know where that comes from. That's sort of an inside joke. Of course, the Spinal Tap, the movie. I guess that ages me a little bit. But anyway, there are people that do take AlphaJoe and don't put it in coffee. For example, my friend Monica Brandt, and any of you know, of course, Monica Brandt was the top level fitness model back in the day, and very sweet person, and she's a blogger and has a great podcast I was on. And Monica puts it in green tea. I think her mother does too. So yeah, you can definitely use AlphaJoe and not put it in coffee. I feel like the best effects are going to come when it is added to coffee. For example, there is some studies that actually found that cocoa and coffee have a synergistic effect with each other. That they synergism more or less being a greater effect than either separate. So again, I tend to stress, hence the term and it being a coffee booster, that the purpose, you're going to get the most from it, I think, when you're adding it to coffee, but you do not have to add it to coffee if you don't want to. You could add it to pretty much whatever you want. There could be, I would still recommend not adding it to protein, any protein source, mostly because there's going to be competition with the amino acid uptake for the L-tyrosine. Obviously, it won't affect the creatine and won't affect the cocoa. I still would say that you're probably going to optimize it effect-wise, not taking it with a protein source. But other than that, yes, you can do what you want with it. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, hey, Will Brink. This one is from John Welch. Hey, Will Brink, no questions for you just now. I will think it over and try to get you one soon. I did want just to take a minute to thank you for your top-notch professionalism in capably addressing the topics you cover. It brings a smile on my face. I see a new email from AlphaJoe because I know I will be learning something new. Please know that your good work is appreciated. Carry on. Well, thank you, John Welch. I appreciate it. I threw that one in there just to toot my own horn. I admit. I'm sorry. But anyway, I appreciate it, guys. And it's nice to, when you're sitting behind your desk and you're sitting behind a computer and stuff, you don't really know, obviously, who you're impacting or how many people are reading it, or are you making a difference in anybody's life? And the internet is, again, both a double-edged sword. It's a curse and a blessing at the same time. When I wrote for all the print magazines, the bodybuilding print magazines, before there was an internet, yes, there was a time when there was no internet. For some of you that are maybe a little younger, I used to go every day or every couple of days to my P.O. box to get handwritten letters, and I would pull out, and I actually kept a one bag of them when I moved, and once in a while I'll look at them. But I had boxes of handwritten letters that would show up in my box, and that, again, when you get a handwritten letter from somebody, it takes a lot of effort. It's a lot more effort, obviously, than to write the top of a quick email. But when you get a handwritten letter from people, it's obviously just much more contacting and feels much more intimate and kind of gives you a real sense of whether you're impacting people and such. And when I would go to the shows, which are not as popular, I would see people that would recognize me and stuff. And so now, as the years have gone by, and you're just sitting behind a computer, on social media, on your website, you just don't have the same sense of whether you are affecting people and you're impacting people and you're helping people. So I appreciate the feedback, John Welch. Okay, moving on. Will, my question is it advantageous to add cinnamon as well into my coffee in addition to AlphaJoe? Great question. So the answer to that is yes. Cinnamon is great stuff. There's good data on the benefits of cinnamon. Cinnamon is sort of similar to cocoa in that it's full of bioactives, antioxidants. There's good data on cinnamon improving glucose metabolism and such. And so the general answer to that is yes. The only real problem is that you have to remember, of course, that the dose, the effect of anything, it relies on what we call the 3 Ds: dose, drug, and duration. And a lot of people just forget about that one important part, the dose. So the thing about cinnamon is that, you're talking about multi-gram amounts, large amounts of cinnamon. You're not going to get, a couple hundred milligrams, whatever, is not going to do anything. If you look at the data, same thing with cocoa, hence why there's multi-grams doses of cocoa in AlphaJoe. But when you look at the studies on cinnamon, you're talking about multi-grams, 2, 5, 8, 10 grams. That's like, let's say, just to give you a reference, like a level teaspoon is about 5 grams. So to get those benefits, you need the doses. And if you put it like a teaspoon of cinnamon in your coffee, it's going to be really strong. So if you want to try it, I say go for it. There's nothing wrong with it. One reason I wouldn't, like I say, is that putting that much cinnamon into coffee is going to be really potent. So I say give it a try. And Jimmy, try it, see what you think. Let me know if it tastes good, bad, whatever. But I have nothing against it. I think there's probably going to be added benefits to it. I don't know how much it's going to add in terms of what you're getting already from the cocoa, but my general answer is yes. But just remember that you're going to need decent doses. So I would say at least try to start with like 2 or 3, like half a teaspoon. Put that in your coffee, see how it tastes. But like I say, it's going to be pretty potent stuff. Okay. On to the next one. This one's from Paul. Hi, Will. I asked you this question a few years ago, and you did reply. However, I am asking you if you have seen any new studies or research as aging is associated with inflammation. I got an itch. I'm sorry if you guys keep seeing me do this. Something itching me, bit me. As aging is associated with inflammation, has there been any research on the use of anti-inflammatories as an anti-aging therapeutic? I use diclofenic sodium for back pain. I think that's what that is. I got to look that one up. I didn't. I probably should have looked that up before I did this one. I don't know that drug. I did see something about its effects on building muscle, where it could blunt the response to the damage done by the actin myosin heads during sliding filament theory. That has to do with exercise physiology. I don't know if you guys, took basic exercise physiology, biology, whatever, but if you've ever looked at the way actin myosin, the way muscle works, there's actin myosin, and there's these almost these little feet on them. They like slide past. When you do a contraction, when you contract the muscle, they slide past each other. That's what he's talking about. Anyway, secondly, has there been any research looking at the possibility that blood donors suffer less from cancer than people who don't give blood? Okay, so first part, I actually just did, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, if that, a whole video on inflammation and disease, the importance of inflammation and disease, with a sort of focus on heart disease specifically. But yeah, there's a lot of research coming out on the importance of inflammation as it relates to disease progression, whether it progresses a disease, whether it creates a disease. There is, cause and effect, chicken or egg, and so the debate's still going on there. But there's no doubt at all, even in mainstream medicine, medical, scientific community, of the importance of inflammation and disease and major disease, especially heart disease. That's a big one right now. But anyway, there's a couple things going on here. One, you have to remember that there's two types of inflammation. There's chronic inflammation and there's acute inflammation. And you don't want to confuse those two. In anti-inflammatories, and I did do also, there's an article on BrinkZone about this very topic. Anti-inflammatories and antioxidants, anything that's anti-inflammatory, which includes high-dose antioxidants, can reduce the post-inflammatory effects of weightlifting, the acute effect, and you want that. You do not want to suppress the acute post-workout inflammation because it has to do with remodeling. It's a signal to the muscle to remodel, and so you don't want to take any anti-inflammatories or even high-dose antioxidants such as vitamin C and so forth close to your workout. There isn't data as far as like the time frames, like what is the magic number? Don't take high-dose vitamin C an hour, 2 hours, 1 day. We don't have those numbers. But as a rule, I mean, I just tell people, don't take your anti-inflammatories and your antioxidant stuff within, say 3 hours before or after workouts. We do need more data on that one, but there has been compelling data that any anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, which is by default has anti-inflammatory effects, can mitigate or prevent the acute post-workout effects. So on to the next one. The important one that we're talking about in terms of disease and disease prevention with aging and so forth is chronic inflammation, where your indicators of systemic inflammation are elevated, i.e. via high sensitive CRP. There's others, but that is the best known and the most common. And I do cover that extensively in my video talk on inflammation. There are also some clinical trials going on. They are now looking at specific anti-inflammatory drugs to impact, to reduce diseases such as heart disease, possibly some cancers. I think, again, heart disease has kind of gotten a lot of attention, which is great. I'm glad to see that chronic inflammation is finally getting the attention it deserves, specific to cardiovascular disease. So your answer is yes, there has been quite a bit of research and interest in this. I can't answer specifically to the drug you're using, but again, you're using that drug for chronic inflammation versus acute inflammation. So there are two different topics and two different issues, and I do cover that, like I say, in articles and some videos. So as to your second question, blood donors. Cancer, I don't think so. I haven't looked. There is good data, however, that people that regularly donate blood do have less heart disease and some other diseases, and maybe cancer, but I haven't looked that one up. But regular blood donating is good. It's a good thing. Again, it also sends, obviously, you're getting rid of, obviously, some old cells, red blood cells, quote-unquote, what we call zombie cells and so forth. And so you are sending a message, of course, to your body to produce fresh new cells. It does stimulate, bone marrow to produce new cells, fresh new cells. So Generally speaking, you should be giving blood at least a couple times a year. And especially, obviously, if you have high hematocrit levels, everybody. But it does appear that regular blood donations are a benefit. So hopefully that answers that question, Paul. Okay, from Dana. Dana Campbell. I got a scrolling, hopefully. Will, what is the best way to increase bone density in a female over 50 with mobility issues? What lifestyle changes can increase bone density? What lifestyle changes can increase or decrease? Decrease. Well, obviously, what can decrease bone density is lack of exercise. But let's just start with increasing. So, with mobility issues, I don't know what your mobility issues are, but exercise is absolutely essential, specifically resistance exercise. Okay. And regardless of your mobility issues, there's definitely going to be ways, unless you're, paralyzed from the neck down or something, but I'm assuming you're not. But I mean, otherwise, there's always going to be a way to be able to do some form of resistance training, whether using bands, whether using light weights, whether using a gallon of water. I don't care. You definitely can find a way to add some resistance training, to your life. And you might need to work with a physical therapist or a trainer and so forth. So that's number one. Number two, let's get back to the hormones. Again, I would absolutely recommend getting a hormone profile. Again, hormones do partially control bone density. Now, I've written on sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is age-related loss of muscle mass, but it also comes with loss of bone mass too. So osteoporosis and sarcopenia really go hand in hand. You really aren't going to see one without the other, honestly. You're not going to see somebody who lost a bunch of muscle mass but has great bones, is what I'm saying. So generally speaking, anything that's going to improve sarcopenia is going to help with osteoporosis. And so I do have an article and video on BrinkZone. I'll try to link it below this video on sarcopenia. Also something called a basic sarcopenia. So, resistance training. 2, hormones. You got to optimize your hormones. Testosterone in women and men, but in women too, and estradiol and so forth are essential for bone density. So you need the hormones to support it. You need the stimulus to tell your body you need these bones and these muscles, i.e. some resistance training, and then some dietary changes that are mentioned in the sarcopenic article, which will definitely improve. There is something called subclinical metabolic acidosis. I can't go into great depth about it, but it is basically that the acidity of our diet slowly leaches away our bones and our muscles, and that appears to be well supported. So, moving on. From Martin Chenard. Hey, Will, I was wondering if you could do a video about collagen supplementation. You see, I'm 52 years old. I train. I take collagen. I was wondering if you could take it year-round. Does the body shut down its own production of collagen while supplementing with it? Or is it contrary? It helps to produce more collagen. Thank you for your answer. Many thanks, Martin. Okay, Martin, good question. I have not done a lot on collagen. However, I use collagen. I'm generally a proponent of collagen. There's some different forms of collagen. The data on collagen is somewhat mixed, but it depends on what you're looking at. Are you looking at it as a protein supplement? Well, it's not. It's a very poor protein supplement. But if you're looking at things like skin health, there's good data on skin health. The data on things like connective tissue in general. I mean, skin, has connective properties, but we're talking about things like ligaments and tendons and that type of thing. The data is mixed. I think that my general conclusion is that I think it's still a benefit. I think there's ways of using it. For example, I tend to mix it in a sort of a formula with protein and some other doodads that I may offer at some point because I just don't see anybody else doing it. But the other thing about collagen is that it's one of the few supplements where the subjective feedback is almost always very positive. And I tend to, if something sticks around long enough, where the anecdotal and the subjective feedback is consistently good for years and years, and people, I tend to pay attention to it. I'm not gonna ever prefer subjective opinions over actual data, but at the same time, I won't ignore subjective feedback when it's consistent. There's some supplements that that you just keep hearing about over and over again, year after year, that people will report benefit, whether it's less joint aches and pains, whether it's better skin, that type of thing. And collagen is one of them. Now, hydrolyzed collagen may be the preferred way to take your collagen. That's another topic. Like I said, there's also different forms of it. But in general, I'm a proponent of collagen. I'm not going to say it's like a must-have, or I'm not going to give it like an A rating because the data is mixed. But I definitely put it in the solid sort of B- category. And I think it's I'd put it under worth a try, worth taking. It does not shut down your production. You can definitely take it year-round. I'm not aware of any real negatives to collagen. Another thing about collagen is, again, it's very high in glycine. And glycine has some really potentially interesting benefits onto itself. And there's some interest in glycine, especially, again, with age, as to, well, for one thing, it's one of the 3 amino acids that is required to produce glutathione. Glutathione, of course, is the all-important sort of master antioxidant. I write a lot about glutathione, what boosts glutathione, like whey and NAC. I actually did a video on whey versus NAC versus GlyNAC. You might have heard of GlyNAC. GlyNAC is glycine and N-acetylcysteine, which you might want to watch. So one of the benefits of collagen may just be that you're adding a bunch of glycine. You can of course take it separately, but collagen is not a very well-rounded as a protein source. I would not take it as a protein replacement, i.e., I would take whey over collagen as far as protein, or something else. So hopefully that answers your question, and I think we're down to our last question. Yes, we are. From Hugh. Yes, Will, I do have a question. I recently heard EFA supplements were not, in fact, a wise idea. I had been taking 369 pills for a year. He obviously means omega-6, omega-3, omega-9 for years, but stopped after hearing this. On Epoch Times Health, a source I trust. But I trust you more, so I am very interested in your opinion on the matter. Thanks for all you do, Hugh. Hugh, so for one, I tried to go on Epoch Times, and I wish you would actually send the link, because I would have read what you're referring to. And I did actually try to go on Epoch Times, because I was actually interested to see what they were saying. And you got to have a subscription to get in there, and I wasn't willing to sign up. So I couldn't really find out what they were claiming. I have not seen any convincing data that people should not be taking, EFA supplements. But this is a complicated topic. Now, what EFA means, essential fatty acids. For those that may not know, there's 2 essential fatty acids, linoleic and alpha-linolenic acid. I actually wrote the first articles in the Pub magazine's early 90s on that topic, where we were talking about, I was recommending flax oil, which is high in omega-3, and I wrote that with Dr. Erasmus, who literally wrote the book on the topic. I'll link that below, my talk about that, and with Dr. Erasmus. So, Hugh, I haven't seen anything convincing. But again, a lot of this, you go back to the beginning of this video, the dose is the issue. I mean, how much are we talking about? Could one take, such a high dose of EFAs or something that it was problematic? That's possible, sure. But I just don't have enough details. But I would say that as a rule, EFAs via high quality, cold processed, flax oil and the 369 pills should be fine. Now remember, that's not the same as fish oil. It's a different topic. There was some data that I had heard, but it wasn't terribly convincing that there may be some negatives to fish oils. But again, everything that we eat has a pro and a con. a risk to benefit, and what is the benefit to what are the risks. But there's no, as I said many times, there is no free lunch in human biology, and I think that the data as far as the potential benefits of fish oil far outweigh the negatives, if that sums it up. But I have not seen anything specifically in EFAs. Remember, fish oil, this gets a little complicated. The body takes EFAs, alpha-linoleic, and desaturates it to quote-unquote fish oil, which is EPA and DHA, and it goes down the path to become things like eicosanoids and prostaglandins and so forth. So it's not a simple topic. But I have not seen anything convincing. If you want to send me a link or something to that particular article, so I can comment on it, I will comment on it. Okay, so I think that's it. Hopefully I answered a lot of questions for everybody, and no doubt we have gone on for 35 minutes. So I hope you like this vid. Obviously hit the likes, hook a bro up, and subscribe if you liked this. If you got questions that you want answered and I can answer them, put them below, and I'll see you guys